All right. Looks like we are getting there. It looks like we're live on YouTube, right? And let me just double check our Facebook. We're streaming to two platforms at this point. So let's see. I think it is going live as we speak. So as soon as you guys can see us, put a little comment out there and let us know that you can see us. All right. So looks like we're live on both platforms. And hello, everyone. Today, one more time. Hello, Matt.
Hello, everybody.
I'm joined by my friend Matt here, and we're excited to kind of come back.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been some time. So we haven't done this in 3 weeks or so. Yeah.
Little vacation squeezed in there.
That's right. That's right.
Get charged back up. You look good. Look like you got a little sun.
A little, partially from the trip and partially from just kind of being outside and cutting my grass and things like that. So I know you guys all know exactly what I'm talking about. So have you gone to any sort of interesting places, Matt?
Was a good trip there. Brother's birthday, and made it down to the Bahamas and Dominican Republic, and did a little traveling there. So got a little extra sun there, and I can see the tan kind of going through a little bit there.
Going through the shirt, yeah.
Little bonus
as well.
content for our viewers there. But no, I had a great time. Got charged back up and
awesome.
Back to Tennessee here and ready to get to it.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you haven't gotten a small trip or places, you don't have to go far, right? You don't have to go like Matt to the Dominican Republic, all this fancy, right? But you definitely have to take some time off. They're actually talking a little bit about, actually quite a bit about the mental health and things like that these days, and the burnouts. And so if you guys, if one of you, just one single one of you out there is going through something like this, just take a day off, take a weekend, and just get away. There's something about getting away, right? There's something about leaving.
Yeah, it's the first time where I've been kind of unplugged for a while, and it really does reset you in a lot of ways. And get a good night's rest and have a little adventure, and you're going to come back a lot more charged up, and I think focused and more productive too. So
well, awesome. Well, it sounds like we are ready to get started, right? Let's go.
Let's grow together.
All right, guys. So, per usual, I'm just gonna say in the beginning a couple of things as far as what's been out there. What have we been kind of working on? We definitely, well, at least me personally, I realized that launching or relaunching the marketing clinic into this growth clinic kind of takes quite a bit of moving parts, and having a full-time thing going on, making a living, and this kind of being almost like at this point as our way to kind of give back to the community, and so it takes a lot of time. So I apologize for us taking like quite a few weeks here to kind of get us started, but we're almost there. So I think starting maybe next, the following one, we'll kind of push the message out there. We'll get everything kind of changed from marketing clinic to growth clinic. So stay tuned. And what I wanted to show you guys is, as one of the reminders, is that there's a website that's currently live. It still has a couple of bugs. Let me show you what it looks like. But this is the website, and you can find it at growth.clinic. That's the that's a web address. Just look through it, and there's lots of really cool things out there. Our upcoming events are always going to be listed out there. What I encourage you all to do is go and log in. So I'm currently logged into the website. That's why you can see my name out there. But sign up and log in, and when you do, you're gonna find yourself in this really cool looking dashboard, right? So we always talk about the fact that you need to be tracking certain things, right? There are certain KPIs to what we do, and so in whatever you do out there, even if you're just an employee at a McDonald's, right? You've got a KPI. Like, just set some sort of a goal for yourself, and especially so if you're running an operation, right? If you're a marketing director, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner. So you got to be tracking things. And so what we're suggesting here is one of the kind of ways how you can keep yourself accountable is to select two KPIs, right? We talk about two KPIs. One is the primary, one is a secondary. Now you can break them down into more KPIs, and we'll probably discuss that in our future episodes where we call it KPI tree, right? There's a major KPI, there's a main KPI, and it's always a profit, net profit, EBITDA, anything that kind of has to do with the hard cash money at the end of the day in your pocket, right? Because if your employees don't get paid, if you don't get paid, then what's the point of this whole thing, right?
Yeah, it's great to be in that discipline too, right? Because as you build out your financials, you build out your business, like having those financials like organized together, those KPIs, right? That really shows that you are managing your business. You're not just doing work activity, right? But you're kind of stepping back, taking a look at it, kind of higher level approach, summarizing it, and then you're able to share it with others too. So if you go to the bank, get a loan, talk to investors, you're set to go.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so again, we're going to give this to you guys as a tool, as a visual aid, so to say. So select yourself. Once you log in, it's going to ask you, what is your primary KPI? So select something that has to do with what? With money, right? With cash. The secondary KPI is what we're suggesting is, what is it that drives that revenue, for example. See, I selected here as a kind of like as an example. Mm-hmm. This is really just kind of test data, essentially, under my profile. But so if I'm getting revenue as a primary KPI, what is it that's driving it? For example, if you're a SaaS, right? If you're an application, if you're a platform, if signups are important, it would be a number of users, right, on your platform. Mm-hmm. If you're in sales, right, mm-hmm. if you're that like a product B2B maybe, the number of leads, right? So number of leads is kind of how you get to the sale eventually, right? So a certain percentage of them conversion, mm-hmm. you get to the sale. So, and then what we're suggesting is you track is like, for example, website visits, right? Website is how you find all information about your organization. So think of it this way: website visits, active users or leads, then the sale, then revenue. So you've got this like step-by-step kind of process, which we're all about this, right? Customer journeys, things like that. We've been talking about this for over 5 years. You want to make sure you understand what's not working, right? If you've got a bunch of website visitors, but that's it, well, you know that the process that's built after that is not functioning well. And so anyway, just to kind of finish looking at this thing, and so there's a couple of other things that we suggest you track is how many users have you talked to, right? We talk about the importance of getting some feedback and understanding what is it that the market is looking like and things like that. If we don't keep our finger on the pulse of the market, then right, we're all going to lose one day because market is just going to go past us. And the last one is, how do you feel? You see that orange bar right here on the very bottom. How do you feel overall? I mean, how excited are you to get up in the morning and just do stuff? I mean, how much energy you have, how much desire to live and do things you really have. And just like Matt said, it's kind of like a way to keep yourself accountable, right? Mm-hmm. It's mm-hmm. to make sure that you are in a good shape and you position yourself towards growth.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to look back too, right? Because when you're having those days,
that's right.
It just doesn't feel so great to like, hey, I really did move some of the numbers here, right? I was looking at one of my LinkedIn pages there, and I was like, I was a little frustrated that day because it wasn't. I look back at the percent, and you're like, all right, up a couple 100% here versus, like it kind of helps even things out there emotionally, I think, for you when you can track it, see it. Are you going in the right direction here? And if you're not, then what action are you taking to improve that?
Yeah, and so part of what Matt just mentioned, I hate for us to kind of dwell here for too long about this because we've got a lot of stuff we can talk about today, but I hope you all guys can see the connection between morale, right, how you feel, and the end result of what you're trying to accomplish, your primary KPI, right? Just like Matt said, go retrospectively and say, I've had a good couple of weeks where I was just rocking, right? I felt solid. I slept well. I mean, I ate well. I exercised. I mean, something as basic as that. And all of a sudden, you know what? It affected how I run my operation. Mm-hmm. So, and I hope you all guys make this connection because, again, we want to start with us, right? You only then go to your business. And then we say why you do your business. We talk about our impact in our community. So
they say culture drives performance. That's right. So if you're not tracking and keeping track of your own kind of emotions and health and well-being, then really how are you going to be able to keep and support your employees as well too, right? And understand there's going to be some ups and downs, but so how do you build that base?
That's right, 100%. So another thing is I wanted to point you guys to the website is there's this news section and resources section. So in the news section, we put things out there since we discuss news, right, or insights, or what's the industry trends and market trends looking like currently. We put all this information out there. I mean, you will see there's a major archive already built up kind of thing. And so we take our time and we sift through all the important all the stuff that's out there, and we pull out the important things. There's tech news, there's mindset news, there's just all kinds of stuff, and we end up basically discussing these news at the end during these calls.
I like the relevant news. It's looking great there. I think you've done a great job curating that. We're going to keep adding to that, but yeah, sometimes we just get burned out of the Elon Musk news or whatever's just like popping that day or week. Is it really adding to your business in any meaningful way or your life? So I think it's great here to have a good news source there that is going to be productive for your business.
Yeah. And so just log in, guys. Sign up, log in. It's there. Doesn't cost anything. Will never cost anything. That's just how we do it. Resources page. We're about to update that, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about it at the very end because we keep getting questions about resources, tools, marketing tools, growth tools, things like that. It's all going to be there. So we've discussed the fact that we talk about news quite a bit, right? And are we ready to jump into it?
Let's do it.
Let's go, guys. Alrighty, well, I guess one of the first things we kind of have to talk about, right, is the fact that there's a bunch of things that are happening out there when it comes to interest rates, Fed actions. And so here we're primarily discussing U.S. The Bank of England increased their interest rate 0.25, and U.S. Fed increased their discount rate, which is a base rate, by 0.5. So that's a pretty good chunk. Pretty good size increase. What we have seen in the past is that Fed very rarely does this kind of things. It's usually gradual increases, 0.25, 0.25% over a lengthier period of time. And so what they're talking about these days is the fact that, let me put our fancy titles up so you guys know what we're discussing here today. So I'm telling you, we're stepping things up, right?
Nice.
And so again, Matt, right? What's happening out there? The interest rates are going up. How does it affect a regular, individual just trying to live its life, as well as businesses? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the easy money is kind of over, right? It used to be easy to kind of arbitrage situation, right, where you take money that's cheap out there and you find good investments for it, and take that difference, pocket that difference. But it gets much more difficult in business when that interest rate starts to creep up a bit because, hey, to make 2, 3, 4% before, not difficult at all, right? But now, if you got to pay that much in interest, right, and you have to make more than that, it gets to be a little bit more difficult when you have to make 6, 7, 8%. Like, that's totally different. So that's where the Fed can use the interest rates to kind of cool things off a bit, or hey, turn on the accelerator and get them going. And you're right. I think in hindsight, a lot of people saw that the Fed maybe waited a little bit too long. The risk was if they, went too early, COVID, things were still a little bit rocky. Could you move things down into a recession too? So it's always going to be easier in hindsight here, but things are still humming along. Markets definitely have taken a significant hint there. I think you're going to be talking about that here next with, with some of the tech companies here. What do we have here? Was it half the companies now on the NASDAQ? We're down. What were you saying there?
So essentially, if you guys missed these news, if you're all following Twitter and Elon Musk situation and all, you're missing what's truly important going on out there. So just think about the following: 45% of all the stocks, right, on NASDAQ went down 50% or more. That is mind-boggling, right? And so again, don't wrap yourself around in all these kind of almost like irrelevant news. I mean, Twitter is going to be purchased, and Elon Musk is going to do his own thing. He's going to build Teslas, go to space. The thing is, how does it affect what's out there that's affecting my today's life? And so there's certain things, there are certain risks that are being kind of built into the economy today. Interest rates is one of them, right? And why interest rates? Because markets don't feel very stable. They don't know how to plan for tomorrow, right? If the Fed says, hey, this year is going to be when we just hijack those interest rates, and so cheap capital is always something that makes market very comfortable, right? If I need to expand, I know how to, and it's going to cost me, I can still make money. But once the interest rates are up, it's not very stable. So on the top of that, I mean, think about it. Interest rates are up. Real estate, we're going to discuss that a little bit today, right? But on top of that, I mean, just overall, prices are up, right? So we know that oil and gas is a big component of almost everything that you purchase out there today, be it a product, a grocery item, because there's a shipping, right? There's gas, there's diesel, transportation, all the way to any sort of plastics, any sort of basically anything, right? And so oil and gas goes up, everything else goes up. It acts like inflation. It's not necessarily an inflation, but it does. Everything just kind of goes up in price. And what we also learned is that Ukraine, being Ukrainian and worrying a lot about people out there and the situation out there, we also see some other, like a secondary wave of that conflict that's happening in Ukraine right now. For example, a few days ago, May 9th, May 8th, Port Odessa was bombed. And only now we learned that certain countries are so dependent on Ukrainian export, and specifically products of consumption products, right? The food. Somalia, 100% of their wheat comes from Ukraine. It's just an example. We know China's 60% of all the wheat into China. I mean, that's a massive country. Comes from a country of Ukraine. And so all of a sudden, Port Odessa is under attack. How does that affect food prices? So on top of that, on top of the fact that oil and gas is up and everything else goes up as a result, right? Now, Somalia needs to worry about famine, a possible famine, right? And if you're experiencing, like in your own business, in your own smaller maybe size operation, you're experiencing there's quite a bit of instability kind of all of a sudden is felt throughout the whole system. Well, just know that this is not just you. The markets overall, I mean, are just, if you have any sort of stock portfolio, I do.
I don't even want to look right now.
Yeah, I'm not looking at mine. Let's just forget about it.
But that's where it's like, hey, you're in it for the long term. So,
right.
That's why you diversify, right?
That's
Hopefully
right.
you weren't all into just tech.
I wasn't. That's
right?
good.
You diversify, things start to shift, rotate out there in the market. So maybe more into more food. Saw Kellogg stock was up, 10%, right? They kind of
as a result
shifting and, hey, they're able to be profitable in it. So diversify out there.
That's right.
Very key.
Yeah, definitely. So, but anyway, so hopefully that's kind of gives you an idea in terms of, the external environment that you're functioning in is going through some pretty rocky times, and we just hope it doesn't get much more rocky from here. So
feels like we're kind of bouncing along there, hopefully, and tech down, but other parts of the economy doing pretty solid. Real estate holding up pretty solid. So hang in there. Don't stress out too much from it. Good advice typically to just, hey, buy, hold it. If you're able to kind of double down, put down some more money into it, diversify, of course, then hey, might be a good time too as as we come out of this.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. So are we ready to jump into our next subject here? Let's see. Let's talk about Airbnb, right?
Airbnb, it's pretty interesting news coming out this week here. So Airbnb announced that it would let employees work remotely forever with no pay cut, citing the ability to widen its talent pool and adding that the company had its most productive 2-year period ever while working remotely. So pretty interesting. Airbnb has been on quite a roll. They just did a major website overhaul just, I think, the last 24 hours here. It looks pretty impressive. Check it out. But, we've been talking about before as far as like, what's this future work environment going to look like? Like there's different companies with different ideas, but who was really putting a stake in the sand? Airbnb seems to be really the first one to do that and say, hey, this is our company going forward. They're still going to do some things to get people together because they are concerned about some of that connectivity potentially being lost there as well too. So probably 4 times a year they were going to get together for a week. So that's a way to bring people together there. I mean, that kind of is their business too, right? Is this office lifestyle, living kind of everywhere. So that kind of works. It seems like it fits well into their model. Will be interesting what other companies do. Apple came out and said, hey, we're going to get back into the office here, 3 days a week, I think. But Airbnb CEO is saying that model is flawed. He's like, it's probably going to go from 3 days, then down to 2 days, 1 day, and then not. So they're calling out each other as far as the different flaws in the models. So that'll be interesting as far as, are more companies going to come out like Airbnb and draw a clear line, or are other companies going to kind of try and tiptoe back, but then maybe half their employees don't like that and kind of just create more of this choppiness out there. So will be interesting to see how this unfolds. The CEO Chesky said he believed the office was an anachronistic form that was from a pre-digital age. So I guess you're worth big money. You can use big words there. It's important to use. But he's saying the office has to do something a home can't do. It thought about that a lot this week, and it's like, it's kind of interesting. Like, what are those things, right? You can always say, well, you're not going to have this or that, or you want to, work on products together. But it's like, can you do that now in a different format, right? Can you do that via video conferencing or other technologies that are emerging, right, to make it more immersive and not waste that time going back and forth to the office, wasting gas, and that lifestyle, right, that people have definitely through COVID have stepped back and said, hey, I kind of want a different lifestyle. Like, there's other priorities. My family is important to me. I miss travel. I miss adventure. Super competitive marketplace out there, right, for jobs. Are they fundamentally changing, right? On what they want, what they expect. And
I just noticed something that's kind of cool. You're talking about the major revamping and things like that. In real estate segment, we'll talk today, if not next time, we'll talk about the fact that price of rentals, right? Renting just goes up in price. And so I've noticed that on their in search, in the meta description, it's no longer, used to say something about experiences, if I'm not mistaken, the unique experiences, something like that, vacation and something like experiences. And all of a sudden they're saying vacation homes and condo rentals. So I think they see quite a bit of opportunity here, right? And so here's what their revamped website looks like.
But totally looks different here, right? Focus on more different, unique experiences, international locations. And why not? If you can work remote, then can you put your home up on Airbnb and trade it and live somewhere else for a month, or however long that you works out for you, or take off for the summer, right? If the kids are out, you want to travel, educate them internationally, then why not do that? And maybe even end up on the plus side of that as well too, right? So I think we're going to have to talk about Airbnb some more here in the future. And we got a little bit of experience in that area too, how that works, and maybe how you can use it as well too. Because hey, if you've got a great asset, good location, or even an extra room, you're an entrepreneur, being thrifty, then hey, you can use it as a real moneymaker, or just kind of maybe supplement your income, right, as you're getting things going.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys are interested in that, but just put it in the comments, and we're gonna ask Matt next time. That will be in our questions section. He can share a little bit about how to set it up and what's the economics, I guess, would look like, right? Things like that. That's I'm always kind of curious in that. How does that look like in a particular geography?
I think a lot more businesses kind of supporting around that ecosphere as well too, right? They've added some experiences, but hey, you're going to a location, you're new to that area, right? Which businesses are going to maybe capitalize on that, make it super easy, super convenient? If you're going to an area, are you going to have a car there? Or not? Are you going to drive there? Or are you going to fly there? So what are you going to do about a car? And like, if you try to rent a car, it's easy $500 a week, right? I mean, it's $2,000 a month. You used to be able to do maybe $500 a month, but so there's going to be other opportunities. So, and can you go to other websites to rent a car, or is that going to be part of Airbnb in the future? It'll be interesting how they start to build out their what I see as an empire in the the future here.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So, as a dovetail to this conversation, right? Let's talk about how, again, we're all working remotely, right? Or most of you, some of you, and all of a sudden you've got a choice, right? You don't have to be in a particular geography. And just like Airbnb, there are companies out there, healthcare, any sort of support services, things like that. They say we're all just going to go remote, fully remote, full-time remote, and all of a sudden we start seeing certain things happening in a certain geographies, right? If a certain country, if a certain geography is set up for let's just call it attractiveness, right? And it is a fun, upbeat, place where you can go places, do things. There's fun people, there's fun activities out there, and all of a sudden that place, if you're fully flexible, if you really don't care where exactly you're going to be, and on top of that it has international airport nearby, so you can again hit the road, hit the airplane, and just go places, then all of a sudden we see these places being a lot more attractive in the world out there. And so the question becomes, where do you live, and how does, if you are a marketing person for, say, a city, right, for a smaller town, for a larger city, and if you're watching this right now, just think of the following. I mean, how does your area, how does your geography is set up for that attractiveness? If you are a business in a certain geography, ask yourself a question: are people interested in moving here? Because if that's the case, then there's a market expansion going on, right? You've got more potential consumers for your product and service. And it's all great and wonderful. We know. So, for example, job openings have reached a record high in March. Like, also the number of people that quit their jobs in month of March has been the highest it has ever been. So we know people quit their jobs. And my question is always, so we also see job claims, right? So the unemployment requests are not going up. So people quitting in masses. Where are they all going? And here's my question. I just came back from an international trip to Portugal, and I'm asking myself a question. I saw a lot of Americans out there, and I'm thinking, are they all still in the country? There's no way to track them. I mean, they get on the airplane, they go. When in the world are they coming back? Are they getting a residency there? I have a friend that just recently have done that, and they are happy. So question becomes, like, US as a country, maybe Britain, if you're in Britain, has been very effective in terms of attracting a certain human capital, right? Are we starting or about to start losing it? If the cost of living in the area where you live is a little higher than normal, than average, than other places out there, well, you're risking it, right? So people go, they'll hop on the airplane because why? They can work out of Starbucks technically, right? Pull up a laptop with headphones, noise cancellation, you're in. And all of a sudden they go to places like Lisbon, right? They go to places like smaller cities in, say, Germany, Spain, places like that. And then they're saying, you know what? It always starts with a visit, right, is what they say. You then say, well, I wouldn't mind to maybe get an Airbnb here, right? Not a hotel for a night, but an Airbnb for a couple of weeks. And next thing you know, they're there. And these countries are, Portugal, for example, is welcoming people from all over the world, and they're fairly easy to give you this immigration status, and you can be there and just. So on top of that, like places like Portugal, for example. Portugal is one of the safest countries out there, right? They're third or fourth most peaceful country in the world. Their most violent crime rate is the lowest out of every country out there possible. And so what else? I mean, what else is in the mix, right? What else is there as an attractiveness factor for a certain geography? And if your area, if your town, if your city, if you are a city, you figured it out, something is going to go your way. Anyway, we thought it was just an interesting, observation, an interesting trend that's happening out there. Economic attractiveness of certain places, fun places. Let's just put it in the plain English.
And are they really changing too? Like in the U.S., I haven't really noticed that shift yet, right? Of as far as people changing up their work, their lifestyle, but like have the businesses that you visit changed? Like has Starbucks changed because of COVID? I haven't noticed any difference there. Has your local coffee shop changed that much? Probably not. A lot of them have gotten busier, but it's like, are you upgrading your internet maybe, right? Like if you're trying to attract that group, or is it more, instead of larger tables, is it more smaller tables, right? As these visitors come in, I'm just so curious as to what is going to change out there to better meet the needs of a more remote workplace, right? Because people still miss that connectivity. So is part of that, hey, it might be a noisy environment. So what? I'm going to put on my headphones. I'm going to buckle down, boom, and go. But hey, when I'm ready to take my lunch, I want to be around like other people that maybe are like interested, that know I'm traveling, that like want to talk about that. Like somehow there needs to be that connectivity and that enjoyment and stimulation, right? So I'm just super curious how that's going to play out. What businesses are going to emerge? Is it more kind of open, flexible, unfinished type space there? And I think you were telling me about some pretty cool places there in Portugal that you saw there.
Yeah, definitely. So while I was in Lisbon, I had a chance to meet some people from a local co-working spot, and they say they're pretty humble. They're saying they're not one of the best, but I couldn't find another one that's as high rated, as large in the whole country. So they're fairly effective at what they do, and so. And look at what their spaces are looking like. And let me hold on. Let me hide this. Well, anyway, I guess I'll keep that title out there. Look at what their spaces are looking like. They're open. The setup is really simple. Look at these desks. I mean, you can rent one of those desks. You can lease one of those desks. It's a short-term thing. You can, I think you can do a daily pass, things like that. But it's look at these walls. I mean, the place has no walls, and instead of these partitions, they put a bunch of plants. Right, basically on your desk. It's a bunch of oxygen. It feels great. It has lots of light, things like that. And what's also interesting is that when I talk to them, and I'm speaking from a perspective of, okay, we have an EDNI building, EDNI Innovation Center. A big hello to them, by the way. They're doing a pretty good job here in Chattanooga, where we are. But coming from a place, from an ecosystem like that, I was curious to when I talk to people out there, general manager of this place. And I was like, okay, how do you guys stay connected? That's been a subject of mine, and I'll tell you more if we have time. But Portugal is a very connected society. We'll talk more about that. But I said, do you guys use Discord, Slack? They said Slack. And I said, do you guys do any sort of online trainings? Do you guys do any sort of online things? And she was like, well, the whole point of this whole co-working is for them to come here. Well, duh, right? I mean, that's an apparent thing. But they're not even trying to go any sort of online thing and look at us sitting here and trying to connect with you guys online. But there's something about a physical human connection that does magic. Lower crime rates, as we said. Better mental health overall, right? We know that about Portugal. Their recurring crime rate is one of the lowest out there. So they're doing something right. Let me also show you just one last thing here as I'm pulling this picture out. And it's speaking about connected societies and things like that. Let me ask you this one simple question. What is, and let me find the picture as I'm scrolling through it as we speak.
You got so many great pictures there. Yeah, I'm jealous.
Yeah. So what is extremely different about this food court? This is one of the largest food courts in Lisbon, in Portugal. Now, those of you who live in Britain, in States, what's so different? What's so unusual about it? By the way, this is a pretty cool place. This is the place where they've got, tens of, a lot of these critically acclaimed, high quality restaurants out there in the food court where, so again, all the way around, you kind of see the food place where you can grab the food. In the middle is where you sit. What is so different about these? Have you guys? Oh, yeah, a little tram.
It's a little different here than the U.S., right? Like normally there's maybe the tables are separated more. It looks pretty busy, but not like in a chaotic type of a way there.
Yeah.
It's kind of open, right? You don't feel like you're jammed in there. But yeah, what about those tables there? Those tables look pretty cool.
Yeah, where have you guys seen these long, narrow tables where you're forced to sit right across the stranger, where you're forced to have a conversation, a contact, And if you guys can see, certain people are on the phone, but most of them, and I was watching very carefully, a certain teenager is going to pull up their phone and kind of be on its own. Mm-hmm. No one's going to say anything about it. But most people are, not necessarily engaged in this higher quality, super friendly conversations, but they're just there. They're just present. And And again, does that have to do with mental health? Does that have to do with crime? Does that have to do with the fact that it's one of the safest countries out there? So, in question again becomes: do geographies like that attract this human capital that certain countries have been working for centuries now in order to be able to attract? So,
it's very cool.
Yeah. All right. So let me. I'm just gonna pull up our next stuff here. So we've talked a little bit about the real estate, right? So let's jump.
You said there was a few other factors there too, right? As far as that attractiveness of the region and like what drives that, right? I mean, cool spot, great, good weather, great. What are some of those other drivers in the U.S., right? We were taking a look at some of the locations there, right, that have been growing the most, right? Florida, very high up on the list, right? Numerous Florida cities, right? And weather, yeah, pretty good weather in Florida most of the time, minus the summer. But, taxes, right? So if you're going to be mobile, if you're based out of a state with no income tax, very relevant, right? Versus another state with higher state income taxes.
That's right. That's right.
So a lot of times on the coast, California, Oregon, New York, New Jersey, right? Higher income tax. But if you're going to be mobile and on the go, and for other economic reasons, then, states like Florida, Tennessee, where we're at here as well too, right? Without no income tax, those are probably going to be pretty attractive for others to move into.
Yeah, and I think overall maybe cost of living is another big factor. So the fact that you don't pay taxes in certain states like Florida and Tennessee, others, but the fact that you just don't pay, even though you pay income tax, state income tax in certain states or certain countries, cost of living is just low. You can afford. I mean, 13%. Take it. I pay for my house $650 a month or euros a month, right?
Yeah, I was looking at like Thailand. Was like there was like it was attracting a lot of startups because you're like you can get a decent hotel is like $30 a night and food is cheap and made for you and healthy and
And if you work remotely, I mean, you can probably make even an average U.S. income somewhere in places like Thailand, even like Portugal and Spain. You can live well, right? There's no question about that.
Maybe even buy a place and then Airbnb it to your friends, right?
That's right. That's right. Come over. And Matt's going to tell us more about it next time. So little plug, right, for next Q&A. So all right. So let's talk about the state of real estate is what we call it, right? So the interesting part is there's something going on with real estate, right? Well, of course it has to do. Some of it has to do with Fed. And expectations from the Fed that they keep setting, the fact that they're going to keep increasing the interest rates, which I hope they're going to kind of slow down on that because that can drive the economy into a pretty bad spot. But prices in 1/3 of the U.S., right? If you look at the geography, prices for real estate drop. And so immediately I start thinking in terms of, so where in the places like where we are, right, they have not. And so I keep thinking about this is what they call, and that term is out there, is what they call a equalization, great equalization. So places like New York City, prices go down because, again, there's not as many businesses that are looking into get into this $45,000 600 square foot leasing spot, and places like Raleigh, Chattanooga, mid-sized towns, Florida, all over Florida, right? It becomes pretty attractive from that perspective. So there's almost like this kind of, it's like, think of it as like an aquarium, right? It's like you can't have a certain, like a higher spot in one area and a lower spot. It's like, it's just kind of like, this is what the market is really well at doing. And I think, times like these is what enables it or expedites that equalization.
You're talking about kind of that internal equalization. Kind of curious on the international side with cities like New York, right? Okay, if it's like, business is not looking as much to go there internally, but let's say internationally, right? Like, is there going to be some space freeing up there for an international presence? Maybe kind of hard to have an international workforce that's kind of remote, right? Is there going to be increase, right, with international travel and that kind of back and forth between countries? That'll be interesting to see how that plays out there. Yeah,
definitely. And so another part is what I think we need to talk about is when it comes to real estate is that change in rent, right? Okay, I think at this point I need to take this this title down. Hold on one second. Okay, there you go. You guys can see our behind the scenes our kitchen setup here. So, but so this is what the rent has been looking like, and this is the trend since 2020. So the time frame in this particular graph is Q1 2020, Q1 2022. So 2 years exactly since COVID started, right? So how did that affect rent? And here's what's happening, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So you guys can see here's the map. It says so if it's in negative, it's in blue, right? And if it's in positive, it's in orange. And the darker the orange, the higher it is. So past 15%, it kind of turns this really kind of dark orangey right here. So you guys can kind of see the scope here. So look at the areas where rent increased drastically, right? Certain places, I mean, it gets to like 30%. And things like that. And I mean, we're talking about not just individual Airbnbs and things like that. I mean, it's a region overall. Look at the state of Florida. Look at what is going on out there. Does this have to do with the fact that people are moving away from, New York? And obviously, New York is also pretty hot. Actually,
retiring, early retirement. Some people,
that's right.
Saying, "Hey, COVID, okay. My 401k is looking good. My investments are looking good. Pension's looking good. Why don't I just go ahead and pull the trigger and get down to Florida?"
Yeah, definitely. And look at the list of the highest. So we're in the same article here essentially. Look at the list of highest increases in rent. And so what is it?
Florida,
Naples, Florida, Tampa, see Las Vegas. Okay, see we're just talking about all these fun places to be, right?
Yeah.
So if you're remote, you can be anywhere. You can work from 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, in a small office in your apartment. But then as soon as you get downstairs, there's a casino, right?
Right.
So there's just something there, right? So what other places are? Let's see, Cape Coral, Phoenix.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix, right? Because there's some areas there that are definitely more on the retirement side of things, or traditionally have been in the past. But then there's those cities further towards the top too that are, hey, these are just fun cities, right? Like both of us like going down to Tampa. We're like, wow, that's a pretty underrated city here, right? That's kind of international in scope, but it's like it's got a lot of fun things to do as well too. And yeah, tech scene really stepping up there in Florida as well too. So Miami really becoming a big international venture capital tech hub.
And it's, by the way, it's here also on the list. So in 2 years, the rental prices increased 23% roughly, and the average is like $1,900.
And it's are we keeping up with the building, the trades demands out there as well?
No, we're
too, not. Right? Yeah, we're not. We know we're not here in Tennessee, and that's been a big focus here of the governor, the local mayoral elections, state representatives, state senators. That like, hey, we need to do more here with our schools, with our trade programs to support it, because we're just not keeping up. Doesn't cost as much typically to build, let's say, a home, but yet there's just not enough workers, talented workers, trained, skilled workers to do that. So that'll, and that's not something you just turn on the switch on overnight either. So definitely a lot more focus in those areas. Will the markets kind of catch up with that? Yeah, probably at some point, but with the surge that's coming in, it's hard to keep up, and that's just going to drive up prices further.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, guys, I know we've been taking here for quite some time talking to you. We can't leave without answering some of your questions. And so, one of the let's jump. Let's pull up our fancy thing. I'm still learning how to use it. So, let's go into our questions real quick. All right. So, and what we want to talk about today, as far as questions go, is the following. So we keep being asked questions, and I'm sure you as well, as far as marketing tools, growth tools, right? And there is so much out there today, right? And it's like going through the weeds. It's like going through the jungles, right? And so, just to illustrate growth tools, marketing tools. There's a company that's it's called Martech. They have quite a few different things going. They have like information network. They've got analytics network, things like that. But let me show you this this map of all the growth and marketing tools that they've put together. Okay, you ready? I'm gonna take well, in fact, here let's keep this this title on the bottom, so it'll tell people if they're just joining us what we're talking about here. So again, guys, we're talking about a landscape, right, of all the marketing and growth tools out there. Just look at it. All these dots, they're not just dots. I mean, I can zoom in and you will see what I'm talking about. Let's zoom into this CRM section here. These are platforms. These are all logos, which, by the way, logos are very important, as you can see, right? But look at I mean, unbelievable amount of all kinds of things when it comes to almost every aspect of your growth out there. So question becomes, what do you do, right? And how do you understand what's important, what's not? How do you get the tool that really kind of works for you? And so any sort of thoughts, Matt? We thought of just kind of maybe mentioning some of the things that we have experience with. Of course, I haven't tried every single tool out there, and this is, I would say, most of the time, or a lot of conversations like this off the record, of course, not on the camera, would go, hey, have you checked out such and such tool? There's this website, and we're just constantly exchanging certain things that's out there because there's just, I mean, tomorrow there's going to be another pop-up, right? There's going to be another organization that's going to say, hey, we do email marketing better, right?
Cheaper, right? Cheaper. That's another thing too, right? Because new technologies come along, new platform. Oh, this is a lot cheaper than this other one that's more expensive, but is that going to last, or is that going to provide you everything that you need, or is this other one going to consolidate with other platforms and give you, more for it? So for me personally, it's taken a lot of time to like sort through the different ones to try and figure out, do you go with your kind of the popular ones that are out there, those heroes that are out there, or do you maybe try something that's a little bit maybe cheaper or simplistic, or there's just so many options out there. Like you say, I feel like it can be very overwhelming for people. And I think that's part of Growth Clinic here, is sorting through some of that, right? Boiling it down. What's worked for us? What have you used? What have some of the others in the group used to say, hey, here's a solution that's out there. There might be other ones, but here's why I'm using this solution. Seems to be working pretty good. And here's what that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And imagine trying them all by yourself, right? Versus having a little community and saying, hey, Matt, have you tried such and such? And Matt goes, yeah, I tried it, doesn't work. Or nah, not good, not ready yet, or something like that. So you kind of split that effort between, that's why it takes community. That's why we're always encourage you guys to keep connected. I mean, stay connected, like Portugal, sit at a long table across a stranger and be like, what tools do you use, right? How do you send out emails, right? And most of us, I mean, if you're really into this kind of growth component, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the most boring stuff out there, but at the same time, it's one of the most welcome conversation out there. Oh, how do you send out emails, and how do you automate certain things? So what I was thinking is, Matt said it would be a pretty good idea if we mention a couple of things in terms of how we approach it when we work on certain projects, things like that. And so what I would say is, so again, let's look at the map here, and I mean, again, it's massive, right? But there's a certain areas where I would focus on. So we always discuss this for the last 5 years or so, at least. We've always said that platforms come and go, right? Your YouTube subscribers, your Facebook followers, your Instagram followers, your Snap followers, they're there up until the algorithm works along with you, right? If you get to the point where you wake up in the morning and the algorithm is no longer working to your favor and it's requiring you for you to pay in order to reach this audience, well, then what's the point of the audience, right? I mean, it could be a still good advertising tool, but we always say you got to own your audience. And the only way, maybe one of the ways to do it would be to collect emails, right? So you want to do signups. You want to say, hey guys, attend my meeting. get my ebook. I'll send you a little something, but just give me your email. And if you developed enough trust with a certain audience, they know exactly why you're collecting this data. They're not going to sell it. You're not going to publish their passwords anywhere. You're just going to stay in touch with them. And if you provide value, people don't mind, right? So if it's B2B, these businesses are saying, hey, you're sending me some useful stuff on a monthly basis, hopefully, right?
But isn't email a little bit old school, though? Like, it's been around for a while, right? Aren't they talking about email is dead? But is it really? Because I think there's some benefits, right? Well, still with that.
It's one of the most intimate, one of the highest ROI tools out there, communication tools out there. So think about it as an intimate one-on-one conversation, right? We all check our emails, right? And there's one you have to have an inbox because your electricity bill comes in there, your Amazon purchases go in there. I mean, your email is your priority, just like your text messages maybe, and maybe other platforms and all. Email is important, and it's not going anywhere, right? So that's why I encourage for each one of you to start with some sort of an email marketing tool out there. Email sent out kind of tool. And think of those in terms of there are two types of emails. We're diving a little deeper here, and I know it gets a little late, so tell us if we'll probably break it up into a couple of pieces. We'll talk more about next time. There's essentially two types of emails. So any email service server will recognize, will go through the business email and say, okay, there's two types of emails. There's transactional email. Hey, your order has been shipped. Your order has been fulfilled. Hey, your refund is there. Welcome. These kind of things. Those are transactional emails, right? And then the marketing emails. It's a mass communication, hopefully personalized. So you need to have a good email tool out there. It's a primary thing that you always want to kind of start in. And any sort of followers you've got out there on different platforms, make sure that they turn into email contacts, right? Your CRM contact at some point, which that gets us to, again, we're kind of looking through the map here, right? So here's a section with email marketing tools. So the next one is, I think, really important is your CRM, right? This is where you keep all your contact information of all your past purchases, potential clients, customers, things like that. And you want to make sure your CRM talks to your email service. And it could be set up by a single company, by one company. Then it's really good. Most of the time, they probably charge you separately for it, but it does talk to each other in a fairly seamless way. But if it doesn't, and you really like your email marketing platform like MailChimp, for example, has been a popular one, right? You've been on it, you like it, you don't want to change anything. You want to make sure you connect your CRM, you integrate your CRM with your email. And one of the ways to do it, if it's two different platforms, would be Zapier, right? It's one of those API automation things out there where you can set up a flow, a zap is what they call, right? If certain things happening, then it's happening here. So if you create a new account in CRM, it propagates itself into the email marketing thing. So email, CRM, two extremely important things. And I think another one is maybe a third category that I would highlight for every single one of you out there would be automation, right? So Zapier, like I mentioned, is one of them. And you want to make sure you don't want to pay a salary to anyone, something that could be automated. You want to make sure that if it could be automated, it's probably a pretty boring job. Don't torture those individuals doing these some really silly work. Automate it and educate them and get them to train them and get them to do something that's more intellectual, something they will be living more fulfilled life as a result of, right? Another thing is on this list here, what got my attention would be the analytics platforms out there. So it is very, very important to analyze things, right? Because think about it. You send an email, how many of them get opened? You run an ad, how many clicks? Out of these clicks, how many website visits? Out of these website visits, how many signups? Out of these signups, how many customers? How many loyal customers? What's the retention rate? How many of these customers bring another customer? You want to make sure to track all this, and we call this essentially a customer journey map, right? So think about it as point number A, point number Z, right? And when something is not working, when you run an ad and it does well, but you don't get revenue at the end, you don't get a loyal repeating customer at the end, well, you got to find that piece in the chain and figure out which part is not working, right? So analytics is essentially the only way probably how you can.
I think that's where it starts to get a little bit tricky, but really that's where it gets really beneficial too, right? When you can tease out some of that information, you can see what's happening. Because I've seen with a lot of groups, a lot of nonprofits, you get an email list going, it gets kind of bounced around, you get a couple different ones going, and then some people don't want to be on the list, and it can get a little bit, it gets a little bit messy there. But when you can organize that information, take the time to organize it, once you've captured it, you've got it, and maybe there's some additional attributes there, male, female, maybe what type of work that they do. So maybe you have a little bit of information
company
about
name,
them,
stuff like that.
Company name, because that might be a resource that you might want to just individually reach out to as well too, right? Not just in your general emails or receipt, things like that going out to there. So a lot of information that things that you can do with that information. So we talked about as well too, targeting. So if with those email lists, you can load those into Facebook, Google, that can be used for specific targeting. And it's not a real obvious thing either, but it's like, hey, if they're a customer of yours and you want to kind of remind them without explicitly sending them an email, you can load that in, target them directly, or audiences like them. So if you have a group and you already know that they're using your product, right? Facebook, Google, they compare that to other users out there, and they can target those similar type of users out there. So there's some really powerful things that you can do with those emails if you get organized, right?
Yeah.
In the right way. So that might mean, MailChimp, or it could be from the CRM, but sometimes your CRMs only take you so far with those emails and what you can do with it. It might be exchanging that data back and forth like you're talking about. And I know that kind of workflow that, the APIs behind the scenes there, you're going to be, talking about that a lot more in the future here. And okay, how does that work behind the scenes? And it's gotten a lot easier as well too. It's not obvious typically, but it's gotten easier. Sometimes there's just more automated integrations between CRM and let's say MailChimp, but you're going to want to know a little bit more about that if you really want to leverage that information to its full potential.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say another probably group of tools here. Again, we're going to go to back to this map that the MarTech created, and that's for those of you who sell something. And so, essentially, think of it as almost any business out there could be selling something online, right? Even if you are just, think of it again, any sort of organization, at least t-shirts with your logo, right? If you've got a pretty loyal audience, that could be an e-commerce element out there. Just think of any sort of digital tools, right? Ebooks, white papers, things like that. So e-commerce is a big one. We all know about Amazon as kind of being a primary marketplace, right? It's not necessarily an e-commerce tool or platform that you can, for example, integrate fully with your branding. It's just Amazon stuff, right? You go and buy, who did I buy this, such and such from? Happened to be from, who knows, you don't even remember that. So it doesn't necessarily serve your brand as well. But what we would say out there is like Shopify is a competition to Amazon in this sense, because they get to fulfill now some of these orders, right? So they're building warehouses and things like that. So which is exciting, right? And so Amazon gets some competition, great, right? It's always good for a consumer. But you don't have to go this route, especially if you're just starting. You don't have to go the route of, say, Amazon. Amazon's great, but Amazon or Shopify, if you want to fulfill it yourself, you want to sell it yourself. There's so many small brands out there. I just purchased a couple of things. I'm not going to mention much, but no, we're out of time here almost. I purchased a couple of things here recently from just really interesting brands, and it was mostly for like a brand experience. God, it is wonderful. I mean, these smaller companies out there, and they'll send it to you in a very nice packaging, and it's good product. Not the cheapest, but for some of the stuff, you really don't care. It's almost like you do feel like you're actually supporting some of these local businesses. So e-commerce is important. The thing is, what I would mention to you is if you already have an existing website, you want to build a fully functional, easy to build, easy to maintain website. We usually go with such a way where we build up a website in Webflow. or a similar platform like this, you can go with Squarespace and Wixes and all that, which I don't recommend. You're gonna grow out of it like shoes, fairly quickly. And WordPress could be, and Shopify, they're really hard to maintain. It's very expensive. You gotta have a coder on staff. And these guys usually charge you pretty good money for doing these kind of things. Webflow and platforms like that. Maybe we can cover that next time.
Yeah.
How do you build a website these days, right? Something that's easy to build, easy to maintain. You don't have to get any sort of like a qualified coder, and then
Code free, right? I mean,
code free. Yeah,
that's
yeah. Low code, no code is what they call it. Yeah.
Yep.
And then on the top of that, so put a solution like Acquid on the top of that website. So essentially, it's a piece of code that you integrate almost in any website, and it does give you a full functionality of e-commerce. It's a cart that follows you on every page. It's not a subdomain or anything like that, but just a great way to do it. And if something happens to your existing e-commerce person, right, you can always get somebody out there. Those tools are pretty, they're known out there. So we encourage you guys to just really, dive through this map. We're gonna post it when you log into your profile next time. Probably tomorrow. It'll be there. Just look through all kinds of stuff that's available here and see maybe it's time for you to update your stack, right? Maybe it's time for you to kind of grow bigger and better and maybe save, like Matt said.
Yeah. Well, we talked about work going remote, right? Is retail, is selling, is that really going to go remote as well too, right? We talk about, hey, we like to go into a store, you like to experience that, but it's like a lot of times, you're going to pay kind of a premium for that, right? If you go into a nice boutique shop, it's nice to do, it's nice to, support them, but are you going to be able to create kind of a similar type of experience, right? With the 360-degree views, with the ratings on there. You buy something in the store, I don't know what that's rated at unless I look it up, right? So you're going to be able to have that credibility with that product as well too, right? With actual reviews that are right there. So I'm curious, as things go more remote in selling, like, hey, do you really need this 3,000 square foot retail space that's costing you $50,000, $100,000 a year, right? In not even ideal location, right? Or are you going to be able to do more with less virtually, and in a lot of ways give that customer a better experience along the way as well too? So maybe you spend a little bit more money on packaging or the materials, right, to make that a premium product versus that's just the cheapest thing that is at Walmart that meets the need.
Yeah, definitely. So, but anyway, I know we've gone well over our time here, and I know you guys all have lives and you want to go sleep and do stuff. If you've been watching us live, if you watch this as recording, just know that we do this every couple of weeks at this point. If that changes, we'll let you know. But anything else you want to add before we kind of adjourn?
I'm just excited to get in with the website a lot more there. Encourage everybody to get signed up for that. It's very easy, very simple process to do that. Get started there. That's going to be a lot easier here as we move forward and we reference that a lot more in the tools that are in there. Go ahead and get signed up for that now.
Yeah, definitely. So this is how you get to the website. It's growth.clinic. And this is how you kind of stay in touch with everything that's happening here with the Growth Clinic. We're ramping things up again. Going forward, give us a couple more weeks. We'll put some events out there, growth labs. Those are deeper dives into certain subjects like e-commerce, like web design, stuff like that. We're always going to have a mentor who does it. That's their job. They're not just read a couple of pages of information about it. They know how to do it, and so they'll be the ones to kind of teach a particular deep dive. In fact, we should probably just call it deep dive. That's another. But Growth Lab is currently what's out there. So if that changes, if you watch this video 3 years down the road and we change that name, well, we've gone through a process here. So this is what starting is all about.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to those sessions there because when you can really watch it, follow along, if you're building something yourself, right, can kind of take it in steps along with those subject experts there. I think that's going to be a lot of value for a lot of people.
Yeah. So, But anyway, this is it as far as us. There's a lot more we can talk about. I know the time is out, and so guys, let us know what kind of questions you've got. Let us know what is it that you would like for us to talk next time about. We're gonna be here. We'll do this together. We're just gonna go through whatever comes next together, and so stay in touch. Thanks a lot, man, for being here. It's good to see you, and
All right.
see you guys later.
We'll see you.
See ya.